why do they hate us, is an important part of the public discourse of 9/11 in many, many different contexts. And it was based on a relationship between the American publics and the actual perpetrators of the attack, which was one of miscomprehension. So from this point of view, it's important that in the United States, the various aspects of the world balance of power and history of the world since World War II that might have made the perpetrators think they'll know exactly what's going on. The perpetrators would say to themselves, we know what we're doing, we know why we're doing it, and they know too. They may have a different moral interpretation of every part of it. They may think they were right and we were wrong, but at least we're part of the same battle. But as a matter of fact, it doesn't seem plausible that that was the case. Partly, by the way, just because American ideological mainstream media coverage of Israel-Palestine issues are so extremely pro-Israel that the existence of a counter-position is often invisible to the public. But for many more reasons than that, American relationship to colonialism, American relationship, the way the world interpreted the struggles over European colonialism, or Americans might think we were all anti-colonialists, but a very large part of world opinion would say we were neo-imperialists or neo-colonialists. These whole discourses of critique are invisible pretty much, strongly explain and contextualize why jihadist warriors would understand themselves to be doing something highly meaningful when they mounted the allegorical attack. But to a very large extent in the United States, why do they hate us? Produce the experience of extreme vulnerability that borders on the paranoid experience of out of the blue, enemies just appear. It's not clear why they're doing it. They're just suddenly, it turns out that they want to kill us. So existential vulnerability is connected to the unintelligibility as well as the severity and complexity of the threat. Leading, I think, to another very complicated psychological thing. Again, this is just, I'm just making this up. This is not an academic, though Paul said academic. I sent him an email saying no law here, not academic. Another dimension of this that's interesting is that it sheds some light on what's going on right now in the US. That is the celebration, the memorialization, the commemoration of 9/11. There are many aspects of it that are striking, and it's such a complex phenomenon that's going on right now all around us that we probably need 50 years to figure out the meaning of the 10th anniversary celebrations. And maybe every 10 years, new revelations will occur about the orchestration of the commemoration, just like the Nixon crisis. But in the present, a very striking dimension of it is the experience, the category victim. So the category victim of 9/11 is an enormously powerful commemorative element. A very large part of commemoration means identifying, sympathizing with, listening to the stories of, and empathizing with the victims. Now, it's hard not to. I mean, when you, especially given the way we have been able to reconstruct it, we even have some access to the experience of people in the planes before they died, some access to what was said in the plane that was that passengers brought down. The stories of the experiences of victims are everywhere. One of the reasons why the victim centrality of commemoration, I think, is something like this. Another aspect of the event was the single, unified, unbelievably dramatic, catastrophic thing produces experiences of community. Especially in the relatively alienated, isolated social structures of the United States, instantaneous relation to neighbors and strangers of a very intense kind, a shared experience, is a very salient kind of experience. It's very powerful to be in the presence of your neighbors, suddenly seeing them, listening to them, trying to do something, circle the library, trying to do something with them. And the identification with the victims is part of the experience of intense vulnerability. So community and vulnerability mean that the victims are the iconic characters for us, and they're the people who represent the random, unpredictable, unintelligible arrival of catastrophe as a potential thing that can happen in life, which is existential. That is, it is the case that we're all vulnerable to largely unintelligible, out-of-the-blue catastrophe can happen to anyone, and it's very important. In the moments when we become aware of that, we bond with the people we identify with as victims. It's not wrong to bond. I mean, I think it's good. It's actually good. It does have this very complicated relationship to the overall politics and all the moral failures, which is it tends to be naturally limited. So the victimization of Muslims after 9/11 is not very much of a theme of the commemoration. And when Charlie brings up, so he gave you the largest possible number, the minimum number of confirmed civilian deaths, according to Iraq Body Count, is only 100,000, though they themselves say that's a tiny fraction. So the victimization, one of the strange things about our situation is the deep call for empathy is great. And the existence of a moment of intense community is great. And the ways in which people have responded in that way are great. But there is an amazing tunneling of our understanding of it so that the commemoration can perpetuate, this is my critique of the commemoration, it perpetuates the state of naive ignorance that allowed us collectively to say, why do they hate us in the days after the attack? So the system is reproducing the relative ignorance that itself is partly actually responsible for the attack. That is, as itself a kind of complex moral failing. Thank you.